All right, so we have Nginx running. We can see that it is responding to HTTP2 requests, or I should say it's sending HTTP2 responses to a request over an SSL certificate over HTTPS. So let's actually see what happens when we try to test this out using curl. When I curl request this, and I do the capital I just to get headers to ignore the body of the response, I do dash lowercase k so that it does not check the authenticity of the SSL certificate. In other words, it lets me use my self-signed certificate. And then I say HTTPS at our zip.io domain so that it will use the SSL certificate. Notice that I get an HTTP 1.1 response, so I don't get HTTP 2. So if I try to do HTTP 2, this will give me an error. Now in curl, you can define what protocol to use, so there's a few supported. Now this one is not supported. So if I do curl -- version, we'll see what is supported. So the protocols list here, we'll see HTTP2 is not among them. It's also not listed in the features area. So how do we get curl to make HTTP2 requests? Now this is a little bit complicated. It involves us building both curl and a HTTP2 library from source, but it's really not too bad overall. So let's just go through those steps really quick. So I'll just clear this out, and I'm actually going to install a bunch of stuff. And this is coming from documentation that I will link up. So we're going to install G++, make, autoconf, all sorts of tools that let us build packages. We also do some Python stuff and some specific development C libraries that are used to build the HTTP2 library. So I'm just going to apt-get install that stuff real quick. All right, that's installed, and next we are going to do a git clone for this ng HTTP2 library. And let's actually look that up real quick. So there's a .org site for this, and it has some documentation. That documentation has, well, it has kind of a lot of stuff, but we're looking for the C library. This actually provides a server and a client that makes HTTP2 requests, but really what we're doing here is build from Git, and we're just going to follow these steps. Now, the Git repository actually has some better stuff there, so let's go right to that. So if we check out the README at the ng HTTP2 library, we'll see we have requirements. Under requirements, we have that apt-get install thing that I grabbed from. Then we see building from Git. So we clone it, we run these commands, and that installs it. And this is actually missing a make install command. We'll use that. All right, so back in here, we cloned it. Oops, let's actually install Git. All right, and then we can clone it. So git clone ng HTTP2. That'll give us the directory ng HTTP2 that we can cd into. All right, so we're in there. There's a lot of stuff in there, but we just need to run a few commands. So I'm just going to do auto reconfigure -I. So I'm just going to run through these commands pretty quick. It's basically pretty standard stuff to build C packages from source. All right, that's done. And we'll do automake. Some of these are quick, some of these take a little while, but for the most part, well, most are quick, but we'll see which ones are not. So we do autoconf, and then we can do configure. All right, configure is not too bad. It takes a little bit of time, but not too bad. Then we can do make. Make will do a little bit of time, so I'll just do that. And I'm going to combine it when make finishes with the sudo make install. And I run sudo with the make install command because install for make tries to put it in directories that are owned by root, so it needs some escalated privileges to do that. So that's built, and let's see, we might have some ng HTTP commands available. We do ng HTTP, HTTPD, so actually a HTTP2 web server. I believe this one will make some web requests, and I'm not sure about PX. I haven't played with that too much. But we have C libraries that curl can use to make HTTP2 requests. Now, curl will not do it, because remember we checked the version and it still does not support HTTP2. So this did not update how curl grabs C libraries to try to find HTTP2 support. So we're going to do that. We're basically going to rebuild curl on this machine. So I'm going to do sudo apt-get build dep curl. So what I'm doing is using apt-get, and I'm telling it to install any dependencies that curl has that it needs in order to build the curl library. That's kind of a shortcut for figuring out yourself all the dependencies and getting them yourself. So this will install any libraries needed so that I can now build curl from source. Now I'm already back in my home directory, so I'll wget the 7.46 version of curl. All right, so that's there. I'll do tar xvjf to uncompress a tar bz2 file. All right, and we can cd into that curl directory, and this will be very similar to how we configured and made and built from source the HTTP2 library. We're going to do almost the same steps for this. So the first thing we're going to do is actually just chop right to the configure command, and this has some specifics we want. So I'm going to just say configure, and I'm also going to add with SSL, so it grabs SSL libraries, the default ones from the server, and then with ng-http2 and the location of the user local directory, which is where the library and bin directory that include ng-http2 libraries and binaries exists. Now I added the with SSL part because HTTP2 requires SSL, so I have to make sure to build curl with SSL support. All right, great. So at the bottom, we have a few things here, right? So notice protocols doesn't actually list HTTP2, which is okay. It'll still work. HTTP2 support is enabled. That's great. Up here, we'll see that SSL support is also enabled. All right, so good so far. We've configured it. Now we need to make and sudo make install. So I'll do make and sudo make install, and we'll just let that run the things it needs to run in order to install that into the system. All right, that is done. So let's see which curl. It's now going to user local bin curl. So if I do curl -- version, we're going to see some bad news. It is not supporting HTTP2. It's neither listed as a feature nor in the protocol list. So if I do curl -- HTTP2, any site, really, google.com, it's just going to say unsupported protocol because we have some caveats to this. Right, so let's see which curl. User local bin curl, that's actually the new location. There's also I believe a user bin curl, which was our original one that we have written over, -- versions, also 735. So we've rebuilt curl, but it's actually not using new C libraries. It is using the old ones, so that when we run curl, it's actually loading the old libraries. Because we didn't actually overwrite them, we just kind of installed them in a new location. Now, I actually haven't tried to figure that out further because I can get far enough just to test out HTTP2. I think the new version will be default in a new enough version of Ubuntu whenever it comes out so that we don't really have to worry about that too much. So let's see the workaround. We are going to set the variable LD library path, which is going to define an extra directory to find shared libraries. And these shared libraries, user local lib, the location we're defining, are going to have our ng-http2 and our new curl C libraries that we want the curl command to use. So LD library path is set to user local lib where the new stuff is installed, and then I can run curl, and I'll just do -- version, and now we have 735. Nope, now we have libcurl 746, perfect, and HTTP2 as a feature. Now note it's still not listed as a protocol. I actually haven't been able to get it listed there, but it will actually still work. So let's actually do this and test it out. So I'm just going to do -I, and we're going to do our zip.io domain again. That was this IP address .zip.io, and we'll see HTTP 1.1 because we didn't define HTTPS. So let's actually add -k, lowercase k, so that it does not try to validate the SSL certificate since I have it self-signed. And we still have HTTP 1.1 because we're not telling curl to use HTTP2 protocol, so it won't just support it. So we can just add the flag --HTTP2 to tell it to use that protocol, and now curl is using HTTP2. Great. Now the last little bit here is that user local lib curl, no version information available. We can actually change that by setting the real path of curl that we want to use. That is user local bin curl. And then we don't get that error message because we're using the curl that is in the proper location for the new one. Once again, I haven't figured all of this out to get this working as it should normally, so you don't have to set LD library path and all that stuff. I've just gotten as far as being able to use curl to test HTTP2 requests just to get us started so we can start testing our websites and that kind of stuff. So there you have it. We have built the ng-http2 library. We've installed a newer version of curl. We've told curl where to grab shared libraries such as ng-http2 and the newer curl C runtime binaries, and then we can test the HTTP2 protocol.